Hi guys, and welcome back to another Dabble the reaction.
That was the second take of that actually, because I am terrible at speaking second. I normally speak first in these videos, but if you're new around here, my name is Matt, this is Molly, and we are full-time travel vloggers under the channel Dabble and Travel.
Is that it? Is that all you're going to say?
That's my second bit. Now you can take over.
If you have any recommendations, be sure to send them over to our Instagram at Dabble and Travel or comment below. We will do any reactions that you sort of want us to do. We can do news topics, food. We've spoken to Siri, look. Oh my god, we're having a chat, we're having a full... It's literally recorded on Siri, everything we've just said. Travel distance, that's my second, but now you can take over. I don't think we said that. Siri didn't get it right. But yeah, we're going to be doing more than just reactions. Yes. Also throwing back some old travel videos or old food videos to get you in the mood for travel because, like I say, full-time travel vloggers. Full-time quarantiners now, but we are back reacting. We've been off for a few days, haven't we? So we're back now. I've been off for a few days. I haven't been feeling too well. But a bit of a headache that won't go. It's still sort of there. And I've had to do it all by myself, so I appreciate you guys staying with me when I was doing it because it was quite hard. I'm back. It's better with you, for sure. But anyway, we'll get into today's video because it's slightly longer than normal. And this is India's ISRO the most successful space agency after NASA? So that is anyone that doesn't know what ISRO stands for is the Indian. I'm reading it. I don't know this. The Indian Space Research Organisation. So it's India's NASA, right? Yeah. So is it the second most successful after NASA? That's cool. And there's a lot. You think of there's lots of. Was it you had the astronauts and the cosmonauts? I think back in like the 50s, which were the Russian. I don't know. I'm waffling. But anyway, this is going to be really technical.
Video is hosted by Brilliant. Hey, welcome back, I'm Lai. On this channel, I've talked a lot about technology and business of space companies. I've talked about national agencies like NASA, ESA, and Roscosmos. I've also talked about private companies like SpaceX and Rocket Lab. One entity I've refrained to talk about is ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization, simply because it's really hard to pigeonhole ISRO. Yes, it is a traditional national agency much like NASA of the United States, but it's also at the same time extremely cost-conscious and result-oriented like a startup. Its launch price is almost as competitive as SpaceX. Really? So let's talk about it today. Where does ISRO really fit in, and what makes it so special?
Me too.
First of all, it is not fair to compare ISRO with other space agencies because ISRO has never possessed the ambitions or the fundings like the other space agencies. Okay. Right. NASA's budget each year is $18 billion, $7 billion for European Space Agency, NASA? $3 billion for the Chinese and the Russians. ISRO's budget each year is only $1.7 billion. Think about it. With $285 billion cash reserve, Apple could have funded ISRO with cash for 167 years. That is how little ISRO spends every year, and that is why comparing ISRO with NASA...
You've got to do it relatively for the money that they spend.
However, this is not to say that ISRO has not achieved extraordinary results. It has. Two of the most successful launches of ISRO is the PSLV C-37 in 2017 and the Mangoyan in 2013. PSLV C-37 until this day holds the record for launching the most satellites in a single rocket, and Mangoyan successfully helped
No way, and they have only spent that much money in comparison.
To orbit Mars,
wow.
Even before the Chinese. But none of the aforementioned achievements comes close to what ISRO has spent for both missions. Around $70 million each.
So is that's nothing,
this, I think, reflects the core philosophy of ISRO.
It's a lot, but
to be ambitious, but at the same time
cost-effective. That's crazy.
In the 1960s, the Soviet Union and the United States competed fiercely in the space industry, which eventually accelerated the collapse of the Soviet Union, and now the Chinese are catching up with the Americans. Not to compete with NASA this time, but the Chinese are not going to be anyone else's lackey either. Therefore, while other space agencies compete to make the most powerful rockets in the world, ISRO never seemed to care about that. Just look at the evolution of its rocket launchers. They're all humbly named satellite launch vehicles. Different variations.
They're not even trying to be flat.
Represent different
They're just getting it right.
PSLV for polar synchronous orbit and GSLV for geosynchronous orbit. This is the first clue of how pragmatic ISRO is. The second clue is in its vehicle design. If you take a closer look at ISRO's rocket evolution, it looks almost like SpaceX. The only difference is that ISRO has a more stable financial support from the Indian government, and SpaceX had none. But in terms of the approach to design launch vehicles, both organizations are very similar. SLV and ASLV was initiated in the 1980s, and ASLV's capability is similar to that of Falcon 1. The 3 versions of PSLVs have similar capabilities comparing to early versions of Falcon 9, and the GSLV has capabilities somewhat catching on to Falcon 9 Block 5.
She's confused,
isn't it? None of them could be classified as a super heavy lift launch vehicle like Falcon Heavy and Saturn V, but
I get what they're trying to say though.
Yeah. Most importantly, very cost effective.
Reliable, cost effective, that's what you want, right?
About the evolution of ISRO's launch vehicles is their adaptability. Take PSLV as an example. It has 3 versions: PSLV-CA, which stands for Core Alone, Standard PSLV, and PSLV-XL. Well, all of them focus on polar synchronous orbit, which is around 600 kilometers altitude. Customers can choose which variations of vehicles to use based on the size of the satellite. This is the beauty of a cost-effective launch.
Wow.
Furthermore, because of its focus on cost effectiveness, ISRO also has to come up with brilliant engineering solutions to the problems it faces. One famous example is its experimental mission to Mars.
Mission to Mars.
On top of being the only successful Mars mission on the first try, ISRO had to perform 6 orbit-raising maneuvers over 3 weeks before heading to Mars.
Wow.
Because the vehicle does not have enough power like the Falcon Heavy to send satellites directly to Mars, it slowly raises the satellite's orbit before injecting it successfully
into the
centric orbit to Mars.
Wow.
The engineering and the problem-solving behind it is truly amazing. This, I think, captures the essence of ISRO's success.
Maybe they don't have as much money, but they have better people behind it.
V. Crump used to say,
that's what I was thinking.
There are some who question the relevance of space activities in the developing nation. For us, there's no ambiguity of purpose. We do not have the fantasy of competing with the economically advanced nations in the exploration of the moon, or the planets, or manned space flight. But we're convinced that if we're to play a meaningful role nationally and in the community of nations, we must be second to none in the applications of advanced technologies to the real problems of man and society.
It is just a competition though, isn't it? Between
a lot of it is, but they're not involved in the competition. They don't want to get brought into that, which probably helps them.
This is also why I said
they're not worried what other people are doing.
It is really hard to pigeonhole ISRO. It didn't have the fundings that NASA had. It didn't have the startup mindset and institution that SpaceX had, but none of this stopped ISRO from doing something extraordinary. This just comes to show how important passion and dedication is for any organization. You know, talking about ISRO makes me really happy because it's clearly made out of people who are passionate, dedicated, and above all, an institution that encourages it. Looking forward into the future, I think ISRO will continue to do great things. It's setting out to perform its first manned mission in 2022. I'd say good luck to ISRO. Before I published this video, one of my viewers sent me this picture. Can you believe it? In the early days, engineers of ISRO had to send rocket parts with their bicycles to assemble them for testing. This is the situation they had to deal with every single day. They don't have a lot of resources. What they do have is passion and dedication. They only achieved what they did through hard work and a lot of practice. A good way to practice actively, though, is through Brilliant.org. Even though rocketry is complex, all it takes is for you to start small in order to achieve great things. ISRO knows at the very beginning that if it were to build huge rockets like Saturn V, it won't work. It has to start with some...
We've just ended it there just because he's going on to an advert, but is India's ISR the most successful space agency after NASA? I think if you're going to compare the resources, the money, you could say that they 100% are.
Or they could compete, be even as good. If India were to spend as much money, maybe they'd be even better. The thing that they did there with the trip to Mars, no one else would do. They'd just have a rocket that can go straight there.
The question
they were so intelligent that they sort of have to work around the factors that they aren't spending as much. They have the money because India's a rich country, but they're not putting as much into the space.
The question you've got is, would NASA be as successful if it didn't have that much money?
Exactly. So if you compared the two of how much they spend, maybe
as they said, they work
more successful.
They work on engineering, they don't work on the fact of money. So I think that's a really good way to be.
Interesting video.
Interesting video. Very complicated at first, very concentrative, Concentrating.
It's not a word.
I'm trying
I had to concentrate.
No, it's very concentrating.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, very interesting.
Thank you for these recommendations. If there's anything else that you want us to recommend to, please message us on our Instagram @DabandTravel or comment below.
And if you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe, drop us a like,
and keep on dabbling.